on
So
the heifers, for the most part, they're going to kind of just be hanging out right now. And I think in that particular realm, you're constantly staring out at freshness. And that's something that's talked about so heavily in the heifer rings. Um, to me, if you did go out and jackpot early, you're peeling a little bit off right now. You're using that exercise to lean them up a little bit. Maybe you're adding in a product to burn off a little fat, or just using kind of their general maintenance to burn a little bit of fat off of them by pulling back how much you're feeding them. And on those animals, I would say typically you're feeding again just kind of a grass hay, and then I still like to keep in either full body or full tank to again work on continually expanding that body, adding some depth, like Brad said earlier, but still keeping them fresh. If you have one that's a bit greener or more immature, and I know we have an example of that here in a little bit, it's still okay to be pressing a little bit, but again, constantly watching those visual indicators. And if you're new to showing cattle, I think that's specifically in their chest floor seems like to be one that's talked about pretty heavily. It's kind of in their underline, back in their flank a bit, and then up around their pones. And you can start to read that a little bit too, just up through their front end on their neck and up in their crest, kind of in the wrinkles on their neck. So there's a few different areas that you can look at on those heifers and constantly be watching just general freshness. It's kind of an all-encompassing picture. And I think now is a time where you're trying to get to a pretty desired freshness, because then you're going to have to lean back into them with some feed to add some bloom back on and just kind of some show readiness here as you get closer to your desired show.
yeah, I would say like, like Nick said, assessing where that condition lays on a calf is getting comfortable around that is really, really important. I'll tell you where it's not. Like, it's not in their belly. I mean, and I say that because it is human nature sometimes when we first get around livestock to see something that's big bellied and go, oh, that thing's fat, and have kind of I hate to use the word juvenile, but kind of a juvenile approach to that. Or if you want to add belly, or, you need to get them fat. I'm not saying that getting them a little bit fatter won't add a little bit of depth. I'm just saying some of the leanest cattle in the country right now are walking out on a pasture with very little body condition on them. Holstein cows are huge bellied, they're super lean. And so not understanding what adds belly and understanding what the purpose of fat is in cattle is important. And I think when you want to add belly or you want to add depth or spring, understanding, how you're going to do that. And then when you want to add condition, and really asking yourself why you want to add condition, if it's on a heifer or if it's on a steer, and understanding what products do that, and really not confusing the two, because I mean, that is so important. Because if we just started really feeding them a hot ration to try to really get big bellied, what would end up happening if we pulled forage out of the diet is they'd get really shallow bodied and fat, and you'd really work against what you're trying to do. So one thing I will say, particularly on cattle, is it's more of a baseball season than a football season. I mean, you really got to begin with the end in mind. That is such an important thing, understanding long term how their maturity is going to affect their ability to lay down fat cover.
Yep.